Hello? No, Hakes, I have to record my I'm not Jones. Who's Jones? Stop asking me if I'm Jones. This is like the 9th time you're calling me. No, I don't want to hear your joke. Dude, I have to record my YouTube video. Anyways, grab a blanket, turn off your lights for 3 true scariest phone calls. Psych ward phone calls. For some background information, about 2 years ago, I had to go to a psychiatric facility so I could deal with depression issues. At this time, I was a 14-year-old girl. I was at the hospital for 3 days when all of this started. The 3rd day I was there, I woke up with an awful stomach ache. I convinced the nurses to let me stay from the activities and sleep off the pain, so I'm alone in the hospital plus the staff when the patient phone starts ringing. I run over to answer, thinking it would be my boyfriend calling, but instead, it's a man's voice I don't recognize. "Can I talk to Sandra?" I was the only patient there, so I said that she wasn't there. "Oh, alright, thanks. Who is this?" The voice sounded a lot like my friend's dad, who I had just met the night before during visiting hours. I told him my name, figuring he would recognize it. "What are you in here for?" I told him it was personal. This started to raise red flags for me, because I had told my friend's dad why I was there the night before. "Did you fight to get in here? Like beat up other girls?" I said no, and I was quickly becoming creeped out. It took a few more personal questions for me to realize that there was no Sandra at the hospital. I wasn't sure on everyone's names, but I definitely hadn't heard Sandra before. I really started becoming uncomfortable and told him I had to go, and that was that. Visiting hours comes around, and there's a phone call for me. A man asking for my name, saying it was my dad, but my dad was sitting right next to me. I explained that he had called earlier, and my dad was pissed. He went over to the phone and demanded to know who was calling. The man didn't say anything and hung up. After a few more calls asking for my name, I told the hospital staff. They became very concerned, and we weren't allowed to answer the phone for a while. Apparently, a convicted rapist had been calling the mental hospital for years, getting names of the girls who answered the phone. He then uses whatever information he learns from the girls and calls back continuously, posing as their dad or boyfriend. Apparently, he even tried to pick up patients a couple times. The weirdest part is, when you call the hospital, you have to know the birthday of the patient you're trying to reach, or the staff won't put the call through. So he somehow knew a bunch of crazy teenage girls' informations and used it to prey on us when we least expected it. It definitely freaked me out, seeing as he should have been the one in the hospital. "2 years of phone calls. I'm not sure this belongs here, but as one of the strangest things to happen to me, I would really like to share it. It really is bizarre. It's a story of a man that I don't know, who called me frequently for years." The start. It started mid-9th grade. I wasn't especially popular, so I never bothered to silence my phone in class. But that day I got a call from restricted and got in some trouble. When I left class, I saw a voicemail. I naturally assumed it was a prank call. The voicemail was mostly Spanish, and with some "I love yous" thrown in. Since it was restricted, I ruled out the wrong number and assumed it was a very lame prank call. I was actually a pretty lonely kid though, so I appreciated the attention. Just as I finished checking the call, I got another. I asked him who it is, and he doesn't seem to understand. I tried to ask in Spanish as well. He switched entirely to broken English and more or less just replied in yes or no's and intrigued sounds, and always, very genuinely, says he loves me. I run with the lame prank call idea, but the calls never let up, and he never said much besides listening to what I say, respond with some sort of sound, and say how much he loved me. The progression. As time went on, I decided it couldn't be a student. This man called at all hours, during class, during dinner, while I slept, etc. Sometimes I get over like 50 calls a day, at seemingly random intervals, just every few minutes. Sometimes, naturally, I'd get angry. I'd scream and threaten him. I'd say like, no, please. He'd just plead that he loved me. Mostly though, I grew accustomed to it. I'd usually ignore it and delete the voicemails. Also, I was pretty depressed during those times, so sometimes I just answer and talk. He didn't seem to understand, so I just cried to him sometimes. As usual, he'd just respond with, "Oh, yes, I love you," and the like. I eventually made friends and got a boyfriend. They asked about the calls. I joked that it was my weird Spanish stalker. They at first assumed it was a prank. I let them speak to the guy. They quickly thought it was very creepy and told him to never call back. He always did. And yes, by then, my phone was almost always on silent. The resolution. After 2 years, the calls slowed down. Maybe I get about 1 or 2 a week or something. But then, it started picking up again and I had enough. I went back to the anger. I, in my best Spanish, told him to back off. I was vulgar. I went loud. I told him this was in no way welcomed and that I'd make sure he got in trouble. I told him it was stalking, etc. Nothing changed. No reaction more than a pouting sound and insisting that he loves me. I found a free trial of some app thing that unblocks a blocked number. I forget how. Something where it calls them back after they hang up. 800 users use it or something. Well, I found his number, and it had a familiar area code, but no number I recognized. They lived perhaps 30 minutes away from me. Outside of my school district, though. Creepy. Well, I called him. He picked up and didn't say anything. I told him I found his number, and that I called the cops on him. I didn't. Then I blocked him. The aftermath. I posted the number on Facebook, asked if anyone knew him. I offered rewards. I went through everybody's contact list I knew. I never found out who it was. I don't think I'd ever met him. No idea how he got my number, or why he kept calling for years. Really, he must have not had a job or anything, or slept much. Well, this all was years ago, but I still think it's a really weird unresolved thing. Recently, I asked my boyfriend, who knows Spanish, to call the number. A lady answered. As soon as my boyfriend spoke, she said not to call and hung up. He called back, and she just picked up and hung up on the phone. Weird. So, any idea what that was all about? Any similar stories? I have been receiving creepy phone calls all week. This started last Friday and has been going on for the past week. I am part of a church Facebook where you post your needs and people will fulfill if they can, or you post something you have to offer and people will reply if they need it. Take a penny, leave a penny style. Someone posted on the Facebook that they needed an item that I happened to have, so I replied stating I had one they could have. They sent me a private message, and we started to arrange for pickup. The guy then told me he had posted for a friend, and it was his friend who would be taking it. We had to change pickup days because of some scheduling conflicts, so he then said a different friend would be picking it up because that's who was available to pick up that day. He asked for my phone number so they could let us know when they were on their way. I don't know if it's a crazy coincidence or what, but within 1 hour of giving my phone number, I got the first phone call. My phone rang from a restricted number, which I normally ignore, but for some reason I answered. There was a man on the line talking in a low, deep, slow voice. "You call for the service?" Oh no, I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number." "No, I don't. You need the massage and the giant cock." No." Then he hung up. At that point, I kind of laughed, thinking it was some teenage boys prank calling, but the more I thought about it, the more I was a little bothered by it. There was no giggling, no laughing, no amusement at all in the man's voice. Not only that, but I'm completely unlisted, so my phone number isn't available anywhere. I shrugged it off and continued on with my weekend. I somewhat forgot about the instance until on Tuesday, a blocked number called me twice. I didn't answer either time and immediately got nervous and remembered the call on Friday when I saw the blocked number. On Wednesday, the blocked number called me again, and this time I answered thinking it was someone from work. My computer was with our IT center, and it was the creepy guy again. This time he got straight to the point. I answered hello, and he replied, "I'm going to fuck you in your pussy." I asked how he got my number, and he hung up. It was definitely the same voice from the call on Friday. I remember that first call came within an hour of giving out my phone number to the guy on Facebook, and immediately get creeped out because I also gave that person my address so they could come pick up the item. About 20 minutes after that phone call, my phone rings again with a blocked number, but I didn't answer again. I decided at this point I wanted to confront the man on Facebook. I had given my number and address out of kindness in the midst of him giving an expensive item I happened to have an extra of, and almost immediately after doing so, I start getting these obscene calls. So I write him on Facebook explaining that I've been getting these calls and asking if he shared my number with anybody. He wrote back apologizing, saying he was sorry I had to go through this, and said he gave my number to the two guys, the first one who was supposed to pick up, Jose, and then to the second one, who ended up picking up because of the reschedule, Mike. He gave me their names and phone numbers and asked that I please let him know if I find out they are behind it. My husband and I decided that at this point, I needed to download a call tracking app. I found out that will unblock blocked numbers, so I got it to try to use it the next time they called. They didn't call at all yesterday, but just about an hour ago, I get another call from them, and unfortunately, the app doesn't work. It just shows up 999-999-9999. I answer, and the conversation goes along the lines of, "Who is this?" "No, who is this?" "You know who I am." "No, I don't. Stop calling me." "But I want to taste your pussy. Let me drink it." "How did you get my number?" "Don't you want me to lick your pussy?" "No, I want you to stop fucking calling me." "Aww." "Who is this? Is this Jose or Mike?" "Is this Michelle?" "No, my name is not Michelle. If you're trying to reach a Michelle, you're calling the wrong person." "You know who I am." "How the hell did you get my number?" Then he hangs up. At this point, I don't really know what to do. I keep telling myself it's just some idiot prank calling me, and they keep calling back because they got an answer, but in my gut, I don't feel like it is. There is no amusement in his voice at all, no laughing, nothing. Just a slow, low, deep voice. The tracker didn't work, and he didn't respond at all when I gave the names of the guys from Facebook. If it is the guy from Facebook, they also know where I live, and that terrifies me. Not only for my own safety, but I also have 2 kids under 5 years old and babysit another 3-year-old during the week. I have small kids I'm responsible for. Part of me feels like it might not be them, but if it's not, it's an insane coincidence that the call started the same day I gave him my number. For the first time ever, I'm asking Reddit for advice. What should I do?